Good evening, everyone watching. Thank you for tuning in to Shared Spaces. I'm Chap. We're here with Quida and Dayson, and we have two guests today that will get introduced in a minute. We are particularly tonight. We're talking to some authors who have some experience, and they're going to share those experiences with us. And hopefully, some of the younger authors watching, if you guys want to comment or have questions, we can email them later, and we can connect you guys. Love to help out. Quida, real quick, any shout outs from the community this week coming up? Anything going on?
What do we have coming up other than the Saturday food distro that we have on with Creative Influence? What is going on this week? Oh, yeah. So tomorrow night, I will be at, what is it? Babcock Presbyterian Church for a not children's, but a teens like fire pit and just kind of outdoor experience. So I'll be doing that tomorrow night. I'll probably go live like I did last week. And then I don't think I have anything else planned this week, community related, but I am going to a couple birthday parties. So lots of Leos. So I have like little fake social life now. So that's exciting.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's all I got going on.
And the fire pit is in Loch Raven at Babcock Presbyterian with OG, with Rob Douglas, right?
Yep. Okay. And Miss Naomi, yep.
All right. Sounds good. Dayson, how have you been, man? What's going on in your world?
It's been good. Of course, I'm helping, get everything straight for Saturday. I'm going to have the community box event. If anybody want to show up at 2555 Hartford Road, we have it every week. Free produce boxes, and we're trying to get bread back and some other things for people to get. So yeah, that's about it as far as the community, engagement part is concerned.
Okay. So our guests tonight, I would love for you guys to, if Tim, you want to introduce yourself and then introduce the young lady that's joining us as well.
Oh, certainly. So my name is Tim Baldwin. I live in Maryland, Harford County, and I've been, in addition to being a writer, I also have been teaching for 15 years in and out. And one of the reasons why I started writing was because of my own students kind of inspired that writing for me. So I have young adult mystery series that I've written, and then got a couple other things that are
very good,
unrelated. Thank you. And this is Cassie here, who's also with the publishing house, Indies United Publishing House.
Indies United. All right. And Miss Cassie, how about yourself?
I'm just a farm girl from Ohio that loves stories. I've written stories since I was a little kid because I just couldn't help it. Very
cool. And are you in Ohio right now?
Yes, I am.
All right. Long distance. How you doing? Welcome to Baltimore. Awesome. So I guess a question I have, I want to kind of let Dayson take the reins. He's the house expert on writing and being published. At 19, got his first book published. But I guess my question to you guys is, Miss Cassie, and I'm a little familiar with Tim's story, but what got you started, or what did it look like getting started, getting the first something, just anything published in print? What did that look like, or where did you begin? Or
yes, so I actually started out trying to go the traditional route with an agent and selling through a major publishing house. I had quite a bit of interest, but they wanted me to change my book in ways that I was not interested in changing my book. So I don't mind working with people, but I write young adult urban fantasy, and they wanted to make sure that I had a love triangle and that type of thing. And I think that's really overdone. And I just feel like I didn't want it in my work personally in this story. I'm not saying that it can't be done very well, because it can, but it did not work for my story. They really wanted the main character to have the love triangle in between a very nice guy and then a bad boy. And I feel like it's better for us to show that the nice guy can get the girl too. Why is it always the bad boy that ends up with the girl in these stories? So that was something I wasn't willing to change, and so I ended up going my own route. And then I won a edit from a nice editor, and she actually is the one that told me about Indies United and how well they were doing and how they were picking up authors and working together so well. So I was very excited to become part of that. It's great.
So to begin at the beginning, what is?
I'm not sure about mixtape.
What's that?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, if you're going to plug the book, what's the name of the book? Start there.
Yeah, it's called Regen, which is short for regeneration, and it's about a Fae girl living in the human foster care system. I spent a lot of time with foster kids when I was a kid. My parents were wonderful, wonderful foster parents. And so I also got tired of the stereotype in most stories about how terrible foster parents are, because most of them get into it because they're good-hearted people that want to help. So in my story, it's quite the opposite, and the foster parents are the biggest cheerleaders for their foster daughter. And I really wanted to portray it in a different way. So
Regen, all right.
Yeah.
Very cool. Regen. Tell me about the publishing house. You said it's called Indies
United.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've been with the publishing house a little bit longer than I have, but yeah, so you can add what I've missed. But it is a co-op publishing house, so I feel like, in kind of my own words, I get all the creative power, and that I would get as an independent author, but also have the power of a publishing house behind me to do things like marketing and help with the things I can't do, like necessarily edit my own work or do my cover design or get me into bookstores, libraries, and things like that. So our publisher, Lisa, is very good and very active in making those not just local, because it would be very easy for her to focus on just Illinois, but she focuses on the whole of the United States. So I'd say, in short, that's pretty much it. I mean, Cassie, I guess you could probably pick up where I miss, maybe.
No, that's a great explanation. Actually, a lot of the authors are headed to Mississippi soon for a book signing convention down there. So they also set up in-person events for everyone if we'd like to do that. And then we're talking about our first yearly writers retreat, which we're all going to get together and rent a big cabin in an area and just have a writers retreat together and get to know everyone a little better. So that sounds like a lot of fun. I'm excited about that too.
And do they target like a certain genre or, not fiction, nonfiction, or what is it that they're looking for in their authors?
Just well-written stuff. They really don't have a focus. Like, they don't do just sci-fi or just, drama. They'll do a little bit of everything. And if you go to their webpage, they have it all split out nicely. So if you prefer sci-fi, you can find all of the authors that write that, or you can go to the women's fiction or whatever you'd like. So there's becoming quite a selection.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Would that be the same for the audience as well? Because I know in my experience of trying to find a publishing house, a lot of them, or some of them that I ran across, would publish children's books.
They would or would not publish children's books. I missed that part. You cut out. What did you say?
No, I was just asking if that would also be the same for the audience of what the publishing house would be willing to publish, because some of the ones that I came across weren't willing to publish children's books, which is what I offered.
But yeah, they publish, the Indies United Publishing House does pretty much publish everything. Like Cassie said, as long as it's well written. There are some children's books in there. There's do we have any, I think we have at least one religious focused story in there. So it does hit a huge gamut of variety of genres.
And it sounds like so it's kind of cool just hearing you guys because it sounds like we did entrepreneur show last week with some young guys, and a lot of them were like they're overwhelmed with the big picture of things, right? So let's say like Charlie was cutting grass, Elijah makes soap, and Zion was making T-shirts. And one of the things was like, like Elijah's an artist, and if he just wants to make soaps, he's intimidated by trying to go out and do sales. Or Charlie is good at service and working and cutting grass, but he's nervous about knocking on doors to build up customers, right? And so what it sounds like you guys found with the indie publishing house is that you can just focus on your art, and then they handle the things that you don't necessarily have to figure out or be good at, right? Like if you're not comfortable, like you were saying, they do the graphics for your books, or they do all the outreach and getting you guys in the stores and stuff. And I think that's what I'm hearing from you guys. And I'm just not familiar with the trade at all.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but you know what else, Chap? It also sounds like they help with the editorial part and the proofreading. And that's the part that a lot of authors that, or self-published authors or authors that are interested in getting, that's the part that they have the hardest time with. Like they always know somebody who can do graphic work. They always know somebody that can, but that proofreading and like going through with that editorial eye to make it publishable and to make it, that quality, that's something that you can't just find on the street. You don't just have a friend that understands, I don't know, APA citations or whatever it is that you need, to publish a book to look, pristine, especially, children's books or reference books or whatever the case may be. You always want it to be, 100%. So that's it. Am I correct? Is that something that they offer or at least can help with?
That's something they definitely can connect you with. They have a list of people that they approve of. Formatting is also a big thing that people don't think about, as your book doesn't just get uploaded and automatically look beautiful when you get it up there. So that's actually another large thing that indie authors have to figure out themselves. So they either have to do it themselves or find someone to help them with that. So yeah, there's a lot of things that when you're just getting into the business, you really don't think about. You have no idea. And then you find out how much work it actually is. But it's well worth it. I'm not trying to discourage anyone, because give it a go. It's great.
Right, because for you guys, you said that they provide marketing. Dayson, how are you marketing your book?
So I actually went through a publishing company, Atlantic Publishing, who handled some of the marketing. However, as the author, I am still expected to do marketing myself. So because I work with a lot of nonprofit organizations, I use those nonprofit organizations to help me market. I also use social media a lot to help market my book. I've also paid some people on social media and other places who have high followings to help market my book. I've thrown cookouts to help market my book. I've talked to other authors who have big followings to help market my book. So yeah, I've done a lot of stuff to market.
Awesome.
Sounds like it.
I was gonna say I will share that Dayson has a very intentional message with his book, but I think what one of his strong points is that he is good at marketing, and he is good at like the social media and raising awareness. Like if there's something going on, almost everybody turns to Dayson and says, "Hey man, can you put this on Facebook, or can you tweet this, or can you put it on IG or something?" And he just knows how to do that. It's one of his strengths. So
Amazing.
Which is cool. It's something we rely on him for.
Yeah.
Tim, I wanted to say, like, so you want to share where you're at with your book series and the titles and kind of get that in there so we get some information on it?
Sure, most definitely. So I have a book series called A Cahill and Claude Mystery. So it's a 3-book series that centers around characters Marcus, Alyssa, Janice, and Nate. It begins at summer camp, where they anticipate a really great summer, but then the little girl goes missing, and suddenly camp is not so fun anymore. Instead, these junior camp counselors are kind of self-called upon to become little newbie detectives who get to the bottom of the issue, and then that carries over into their next year in high school, where in Shadows of Doubt, where money's going missing from the athletic department, and they got to clear the name of Marcus's father, who's also the athletic director, and then definitely some shady things going on. And then takes us into Operation Varsity Blues, where in that story, people are cheating on their grades and buying their way into prestigious schools, and so the how they get into it is what they are hired to figure out by a mysterious new client, because they have gotten so good. So in addition to being, I would not consider any of them to be true mysteries in the sense that, oh, it's just a mystery, but really it's there's a mystery there's some crime fiction there, but it also kind of accounts the everyday, life of teenagers, modern day teens, going through school, going through summer camp, and just navigating the darkness around them, essentially. And so I really am intentional about aspects of positivity within the work that I do. So that's the series, and then I have another work called A Shot at Mercy, which is the only one I've written so far that's a religious theme story, and it's definitely not one of those stories that I'm like, hey, you should read this if you want an escape, because it centers around a character who is a father who is struggling with raising his daughter as a single father, and just as his life is getting back together after a horrific accident, she goes off the rails, and it deals with things like addiction and recovery, and how faith plays into all that, family plays into all that. And then I have another book coming out in August, which is a compilation of short pieces that I've written. So a little bit of everything that I have going on right now.
So I hope I'm not stepping too far into like the realm of being, too personal. However, I know that when I wrote my book, it was a sense of personal motivation, and hearing about both of your books, I just wanted to ask, was it any personal motivation that drove you to write these type of books specifically?
Yeah, I mean, for me, so I started with Camp Lenape because, I mean, it wasn't really, I wouldn't say I had a personal connection, so to speak, but I definitely was inspired by this very strange summer camp that I was working at 4 years ago, where it was just outdated. Like, you step on that summer camp and you're like, what is this, 1950 all over again? What is going on here? And I heard various weird stories about the camp, and I was like, there's definitely a story here. And then my characters were developed based on my own students at the time. 4 years ago, they were 8th graders, and I was like, I want to incorporate these. I really, that one, I'd say really, I did truly write that for the students that I was currently teaching. And A Shot at Mercy was really inspired by a police blotter where it was part of a creative writing program I was doing, and that one was inspired by a police blotter where I saw that a man was shot in the back by his daughter's ex-boyfriend, and he survived. And I was like, whoa, how did we get to that point? And so I wrote it as a short story initially, and then I later on brought it to my writing group, and we workshopped it a little bit more, and I developed into a full-length story about this guy. And that one does draw upon a lot of, not personal experiences for myself, but friends. Dave and I have a mutual friend, a brother of ours, who our friend's brother OD'd, his niece OD'd, and a lot of issues with that. And so definitely pulled in a lot of those elements to kind of create the story of that I wanted to communicate in that story, that one, it's something that we can get through, but it's not always necessarily going to be a happy ending. It could be in my story, it's more bittersweet. And I wanted to keep it real. I didn't want it to be like this weird Hallmark, movie where everything works out in the end. It's like, no, it's not reality. Sometimes it doesn't work. And when you only have 50,000 words, when you're only working with 50,000 words, you can only do so much.
Hmm.
It's kind of open-ended. So I actually left it open so that I could actually write more for the series. It's just, do I want to delve into that right now? Not so sure. Because I want to enjoy the process myself.
So Cassie, I had a question, just to follow up, because Tim was sharing, just different inspirations for writing. How, I guess, as an artist, I would think that you guys absolutely want to draw on everything that you know and experience. Do you find yourself ever compromising and trying to just fill in with something that you don't know? I know obviously you would try not to do that, but like, what does the process even look like? And one of the conversations me and Tim had a couple weeks ago, he was sharing about he was exploring a character who happened to be in his book African American, and he got some feedback on from a critic, and in my opinion, I hope you don't mind me sharing, Tim, but in my opinion, it was like he addressed it appropriately where he didn't go too far into it. The character was, the person was asking about like, well, why don't you have a scene with her, maybe sitting on a stoop getting her hair braided or this and that, and Tim didn't do that. Number one, because he doesn't have experience. You know what I mean, to actually write about that. But at the same time, as a white author, if he did, would that be presumptuous and perceived as racist, right? So it was like, how
stereotype.
So that was my opinion. So I guess I'm asking, like, do you guys just kind of stick to what you know? Do you ever try to go outside of, what your experience is, and how far do you take it? What's that look like?
For me, it's a little easier because I do write supernatural type fiction. So I can make up groups of people like the Fae, so that, whatever I decide is normal for them is normal for them. Mm-hmm. So I would like very much to include everyone, but it's very hard to find. You hear both sides. You hear, don't try to use characters you don't understand because you shouldn't try to use them. And then you hear, you don't have enough other characters in your storylines. Why don't you include more people that are different from you? And so it's a very difficult line to walk. I do have friends in a lot of different groups where if I do include anything, I ask, can you please read this? Is there anything I can add to this that would make you more comfortable? Anything that needs taken out? So I think it really just comes down to making sure you have a group of people that you can trust to ask if you think differently than them, or your life has been so different than theirs has. I've visited a lot of cities. I like to visit the city, but I live in the country. So, I'll ask people, would this, does this seem like something that would happen? And so it comes down to all aspects of life. I have wonderful parents. I have seen a lot of shattered families through the years as we've always had foster kids, but I personally have had wonderful parents. So I have adopted siblings that I'll be, are you able to talk about this with me? Like, well, does this hurt? And try to draw out how they actually feel. And actually in the series that I wrote, a lot of it was because of that. People expect foster kids to just be, grateful that they got taken in, and they expect them to just want to be in a family. A lot of those kids have been through horrible traumas. They don't trust anyone. They don't want anything to do with you. They're glad to have somewhere to sleep and eat, but they don't know what's coming next. They don't know what their expectations are. It's a very, very difficult time moving in with a new family, that type of thing. So I have not personally experienced that, but I've watched the kids try to learn the house, try to learn what rules they are expected to follow. And so if I don't know, I ask, but is what it boils down to.
So I actually want to comment on that as well, because it's kind of funny you asked that question. Last week, another Baltimore writer, Benjamin Stevens, asked me to consult on a fantasy novel that he was writing. And he wanted me to give insight on how he should portray people or of the POC community, people of minority people, right? And so I gave him some of the general type of things, like don't use unnecessary descriptive terminology, or trying to steer away from the stereotypes of, curly hair, watermelon, fried chicken, stuff like that. I was like, as I was telling him, you have to find a way to step out of your box, but not step over the line, right? You have to be able to express different cultures without necessarily stepping on anybody's toes or saying anything that would be seen as insensitive, right? I think as writers, it's important for us, writers of all genres, whether you're writing a novel, whether you're writing a children's book, whether you're writing a news story, an article, a blog, it's important for us to step out of our comfort zones and express and detail different cultures, different news, whatever, different things. And so, yeah, that's why that question was like on the nose. Like, I really like the question.
Yeah, that is a. Sorry. You want to go?
I was just saying it was a good question, and it can be a difficult subject, and I'm glad that we're able to talk about it.
Yeah, it is a difficult thing to do as writers, because you don't want to write because you want to write. You first and foremost, I think it's important to write characters that are human. First of all, that anybody can be, that are empathetic, that anybody can relate to. And then if you are it's a question of, are you writing specifically about a character who is of a certain race or ethnicity, or are you just throwing in a character of a certain race or ethnicity just because? And that's what it comes down to. It comes down to a question of, what are you writing about, and why are you writing about it?
Yeah, Chap. I'm not by any means, I wouldn't call myself an author, but a bunch of, I do know friends that have published books, and for instances or for, I guess, times or for a character that they can't, necessarily put themselves in that character's shoes, they'll conduct interviews, and I'll help them conduct the interviews. They're like, ask these questions, and it's a list of 10 questions, and I'm talking to 20 or to 50 people, asking them the same questions about this particular experience and how they felt and this, that, and the other. And not to say that any of them are even the same, but it gives perspective from their own language, their own verb. You know what I mean? That is the part, to speak in the same language and to be, culturally appropriate, like you all are saying, without being offensive, but still being natural.
No, I like when you said, get outside your box, but don't step over the line. That's good.
That was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what Quida said, because I don't know if you remember, David, but I actually asked you, right? Could I interview you on your perspective of the conversation that I have in my first book? You remember that?
Oh yeah, we didn't circle back around. Do you remember asking me?
Yeah, so I do you think that's a big part of sharing different cultures in books, or depicting different characters, is actually talking to some people who may have gone through the events and circumstances and situations that your character that you're writing about have gone through? That's a big part of writing.
Yeah, and then it's multiple perspectives. It's not one dimensional, because I'm not sure who it was, Tim, that made the suggestion or who said it. Although I'm a Black woman that gets my hair braided, I've never had my hair braided outside. I don't do it when I go on vacation. I don't do it at home. I'm not getting my hair done outside, but I'll do it inside, controlled climate. That's more my speed.
Right. Right. And that being said, it's the question of, and what best serves the overall story that you're telling.
Right.
In my story, it's a very fast-paced mystery. There's very little opportunity to go into any kind of depth that right. What things I might have included might have been easily missed by somebody who's just speeding right through it. Because I kept it subtle. I hope I didn't keep it so subtle that you're like, oh, this could be anybody. But it's the risk you take when you put your work out there.
Right, because people are always going to have something to say.
Well, Quida, before we get too far from it, I just want to comment that in the summertime in Baltimore in the 90s, if you had long hair, you could just go down. Look, you could go down Oregon, Alameda, Wolf Street, see a young lady sitting on the stoop. If you have money in your pocket, just go give her some money, sit between her legs, and get your hair braided. That was the thing. So.
Oh, and I'm not saying it's not a thing. It's not a thing for me. I am a big baby. I'm going to be crying the whole time. It's not going to be fun. Like, they're going to be pulling my hair. I'm like a child. It's ridiculous. I don't want to embarrass myself. That's all that is.
And see, I absolutely love details like that. And you don't know unless you ask. You don't know what you don't know, right?
That's right. So.
No, but that's really cool. So I actually have a question. You say that you have 2 books?
Yes. So I'm actually in the process of writing my second book, and I'm conducting interviews for my second book. My second book is going to be called The Talk, A Different Perspective, which is kind of, a coincidence that we decided to talk about perspectives today. And, as you know, my first book is The Talk, a conversation that Black parents have to have with their children about the racism or the racial discrimination or issues that we here in America have to face, specifically issues of police brutality, misconduct, and abuse. And when I was writing that book, I wrote it from my perspective and the perspective of people that look like me. However, I'm still interested in reviewing or analyzing or looking at the perspective from a different point of view, from the point of view of white people. I want to know what they tell their children concerning race in America when their children see the instances of police brutality, misconduct, and abuse. The clear instances, not the ones that you can debate and argue. When they see the videos of Black people being killed by police officers for doing absolutely nothing that would warrant that type of interaction, what do they tell their children? Do they tell their children anything? How do you have that conversation with somebody who would not have to experience that on a daily basis? How do you have that conversation with someone who does not feel, the same way Black children feel when they see it? When they kind of conflate that with, or think that to be, or kind of like see their mothers, their fathers, their brothers, their sisters. I just wanted to tackle that dynamic a little bit.
And so you're in your interviewing process now?
Yes.
Nice. And so if people wanted to, perhaps, do you have all your interviewees? If people wanted to offer their perspective, how would they do such a thing? So
if you want to offer your perspective, you can email me at Dayson Brooks, DaysonBrooks 77 @gmail.com. You can shoot me an email night or day. I'm pretty much always awake doing some type of work. Like Quida said, you said on Saturday, you don't sleep. I'm always up.
What is sleep? I don't even know what. Spell it. Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't. Yeah. Okay. And so is that also how people would get in touch with you if they wanted to purchase your first book?
So if you would like to purchase my first book, you can literally purchase it anywhere books are sold. By the grace of God, I was able to get picked up by a publishing company, which means my book is sold in Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, etc., and so on. You can also buy my book directly from me by going to my Instagram page, my TikTok, my any social media. It's all under the same name, just Dayson Brooks, DaysonBrooks, and you can purchase the book directly from me, or you can go to any store, any online store, Amazon, and you can purchase the first book.
Is your book illustrated?
Yes, it is illustrated. I thought I had a copy of it somewhere, right next to me, but I don't know where it went.
How do you find an illustrator? That's a good question, Cassie. Are you artistically inclined? I mean, I am not. How did you find your illustrator?
That was me. So I actually outsourced not only the illustrations, but the editing. So I did everything before I even came to the publishing company, because this was my baby. I wanted to make sure it was, right before I presented it to anyone. And, like I said, by the grace of God, I was able to find a really good illustrator who liked my book, who liked the theme and the topic of my book, and didn't charge me next to nothing just to do the illustrations, just because she believed in the message that I was spreading in my book. And that was the same thing for the editor. I outsourced all of it, and by the grace of God, I was able to find some really good people that helped me out.
The author community is amazing. Really, it really is. People jump right in. I love it.
I wanted to say, man, Dayson, you're getting some good plugs in. So with Ms. Grootman and Mr. Baldwin as well, man. Where can we get your books?
Title, location, how?
Well, the series name is Penchant for Trouble because the girl, the main character in my book, they call her Miss Penchant because she has a penchant for trouble. And so it's actually available basically wherever books are sold also.
Awesome.
Same. All of my books are available wherever books are sold as well.
So Amazon as well.
Barnes & Noble. You can walk into a bookstore and order it if you want. I'm plugged into a few of the community bookstores. In fact, Dayson, I'm doing a lot of Maryland book stuff, so we can always pair up. We always have.
That's one key part of writing that I'm, or I guess of what do you say, promotion that I haven't really gotten into yet. The local bookstores. I've been trying to get Pratt Library to, let me do a book event there, but the local stuff is a little bit. I'm finding that the local stuff is difficult.
Yeah, so I have a few connections that I can hook you up with later on. I have a few connections who would probably love to carry your stuff. And there's also even going to just events throughout Maryland. I go to a lot of the. I try to hit up some of the book events, but I mostly have been going to a lot of those craft fairs. Those vendor craft fairs are great. Incredible. You just get a table, $25, $45, and you just sell.
And not only that, like anybody goes to a craft fair, Tim. It's not any particular type of person. All the people are there.
Right, exactly. And it's just at that point, it's engaging. You just engage you just are engaged. Really, what you're doing is just engaging an audience, and most people will be interested in a book. And what I find, interestingly, I've seen tons of children's books. I was at an event not too long ago, and this lady, I'd say she sold at least 30 books at this vendor fair in Annapolis. Wow. Of course, I mean, and that's what's cool about children's books is they're illustrated, they're very attractive, they're very colorful, and almost every adult has a niece, a nephew, a grandkid, somebody who'd be like, I need to get that book for my kid. Or for this
right
kid.
Away if it's for them or not. So that's great too.
Right. Exactly. My stuff tends to be a little bit harder sell sometimes, and sometimes it tends to be, you never know. Sometimes it tends to do very well, sometimes not as well. It all really depends on the audience and who's coming in. But yeah, everybody goes to those places. And interestingly, I tend to do better at those very small events. Those more like community events where it's just like not very many people are milling about, and you're just like, they just buy. It's like, okay, cool.
Wow, I'm supporting people.
I was gonna say it's probably just because more intimate setting, right?
Right. Your personality is selling the book. People are like, you know what? This is a cool guy. I'm gonna support him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or even depending. I mean, I might see Tim and be like, "That is a weird mustache. I got to see what he's writing about."
For sure. Because I've definitely had at least one sale where a guy would saw me, walked up, and talked to me about that. Because I also, when I go to these events, I also wear a Stetson hat, and so I have a whole complete look.
It's the persona, man. Absolutely. That's interesting.
That is great though. People will never forget you. They're like, did you see the guy with did you know where he is? Yeah.
Yep.
I like it.
Had to take that advice.
Right.
Dayson, did you have another? You said you had another question we didn't get to. We've been talking.
For me?
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if we got all your questions.
Yeah, for the time being. I might have forgot it.
No, I'm trying to put you on the spot. Yeah, it's awesome. Wow, this is
So
all like a
yeah,
lot.
I have the question. Okay. So you guys are from the publishing house, the indie publishing house. So I just wanted to see if you had a perspective because while I am in the process of writing my second book, I was trying to decide if I wanted to go through a publishing company again or if I wanted to try my hand at, individually publishing my book. So what would be your take on the two? I guess pros and cons, right?
I mean, I'd say if you're gonna go independently published, I mean, you might as well go with Indies United Publishing House because I mean, that's what you're getting, that plus plus a publishing house, plus on the day of your release, over 50 other authors who are going to be tweeting out and posting on Instagram and stuff your book release with 30 or so hashtags that our publisher has researched and has pulled together intentionally. And I'd say like, yeah, I mean, certainly if you want to kind of have more of the autonomy that you get from being independent, but you still want to have that connection, Indies United Publishing House is a great way to go.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Okay. So I like that because
you want it, but
the economic aspect of publishing a book wasn't really my motivation in the first place. It was more me getting the message out, getting my ideas out to the world, and giving parents the ability to have this conversation because I believe it's necessary. So the economic part wasn't really the most important, piece of me publishing a book in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
What I like that I'm hearing is that it's the community you guys have. You guys are talking about doing a writers retreat. You guys are talking about shared social media. You guys are talking about like we're having this conversation now. You guys just have other people to explore their thoughts and bounce your ideas off of, and that's like so important to have a family and a support group in your efforts, no matter what they are. Like Quida and Dayson are in my like community family. Like we serve the community. You can't do it by yourself, and I think it's just so important to have that's kind of support. And the reason I've been trying to find a reason to get Tim on the show. He's one of my brothers who's just so unique and has so much experience and wisdom that there's so much to explore. But on the writing tip, especially, he just started. He's a writer. He's a teacher. Fantastic teacher, man. Film, drama, theater, English, and other things like that. And when he started telling me about the publishing house, it was just like this light bulb went off. Like, duh, like how awesome is that to because I saw the difference in you, Tim, when you were grinding away at the house, trying to just get your book done and get it done, on your own and kind of beginning. Like I won't say not knowing where to begin, but just getting started seemed like very stressful and cumbersome. But then you're on your third book now, and you're sharing with me about the Indies United Publishing House. And there was energy there that wasn't there before, and it was like a lightness to it, where it's like you could just crank, just work on your story and not worry about the minutia, and that's valuable. That is so valuable.
I think I'm sorry, Cassie, go ahead.
It's fine. I was just going to say that traditional publishing has changed quite a bit also. People think that, you sell a book, then you're just in. It's automatic. You're going to do well now. But they actually only really market the top 10% books, and they take a loss on a lot of their other books. So if they don't think that you're going to really, really make it, they just ignore you. And you have to do the marketing just as much as if you were an independent author. So why are you giving them the profits from your book if you're going to be doing the work anyway? Mm-hmm. So
and you're saying that's the old way of doing things, right?
Yes. Okay. Traditional publishing was the only way to do things until the last, I don't know, what do you want to say, Tim? The last 10 years or so?
I'd say so. I mean, I haven't been in it for that long, but from what I understand, probably at least 10 years. Probably started to really shift 20 years ago. But interestingly, I mean, if you go back far enough, you got guys like Charles Dickens who are putting all their money into their own work and putting the upfront costs into to write, to go into poverty to get like something like A Christmas Carol out there. This guy, that's what this guy did. He was in pretty much poor guy. He was a pauper, investing money, getting his own loans to get his book out there to pay for the cost. And fortunately for him, it paid off. He didn't have a publisher. I mean, of course, it's a different time, but it's like not much has really changed. And with, I think, with a traditional publishing house, you, like you said, Cassie, but to add to that, you're gonna pretty much be anonymous. They're not gonna know who you are. There's not gonna be somebody sending out weekly emails and giving you updates on what's going on with the publishing house, on new releases, on tips for marketing your book, on now we're connected on that. What is it called? Discord.
Discord. Yeah, we have a Discord.
So now actually, I haven't really used it that much, but I mean, you're not going to find that in a big publishing house that takes most of your royalties, and you won't even sell anything anyway unless it is the top 10%. Whereas indies, it's like whatever your level of success, whatever you've determined in your mind is success for you, whether that's 200 books being sold a year or 200 books being sold a lifetime or several thousand books. We're making the connections to be able to make it happen for us.
And also, a lot of times books don't really do well the first few years. It really builds up as the author puts more books out. You don't get that chance in traditional publishing if you don't do well with your first few books. You know, if you write 2 books and they don't do that great, they might decide that they don't want to publish your third one. And then you're just stuck with your series halfway out there, and you're not allowed to use those characters again because they're copyrighted. So it comes down to just how much effort you're willing to put into it, and really if you want to keep the control of your work or not.
I was going to say earlier, I love that the indie company is a co-op. I don't know if other people know what a co-op is, but in most instances, like the employees basically contribute to, make the rules, and or own the company. So like this structure is so equitable because, it's made by the people who are building the company and benefiting from the company. So I do love that whole situation. So thanks for introducing us to the company.
Yeah, for sure. And also another kind of neat thing too is that we also, when submissions do come forth through the publishing house, Lisa will actually send those. She's not the only one reading it. She sends it out to the other authors and the ones who are more specific to that genre. So, which I think is kind of cool too. Because like you said, I mean, you become part of the process of even just vetting somebody to bring them on board and say, are they a good fit? And it's not even really, are they a good fit? Because it's not like we're going to unless somebody's writing something that's definitely promoting some things that are just like, we're not about that. I'm pretty sure there's going to be at least some kind of genre that we're not going to publish. But I'd say for the most part, for the wholesome stuff, and even for the stuff that's a little edgy, I mean, it's getting published through Indies United. The stuff I don't write and the stuff, Cassie, you don't write does not get published. They're not publishing that stuff. I mean, it's anyway.
So let's see. I had a question and it slips my mind. As far as like the co-op finding new talent, is it all just word of mouth? How do you browse or look for new talent to bring in? Is there like a recruitment process, or is there like maybe like a scholarship process, or what does that look like besides word of mouth? You tell me about it, I write a book and submit it, etc.
Yeah. Cassie, how did you find Indies United? You told us how you told us how you found Indies United through an editor, right?
Yes, Jenny.
Yeah.
she's involved a lot, quite a bit with the publishing house. But it was a charity auction. She had donated an edit, and I won the charity auction. And she said this would fit our publishing house very well. Would you be interested? And so I checked it out and ended up joining. But it sounded like that's more rare. I think that a lot of times people are friends of friends, or they talk in writers groups, or that type of thing.
Yeah, for me, I found mine through Twitter. Like I wasn't looking for a publishing house. I kept seeing this Indies United Publishing House being tweeted, and probably by another author who was there who I followed, and I saw enough of it where I was like, let me follow this and see what they're all about. 6 months went by, and I was just like, I wasn't sure about it, but then I was like, yeah, try it out, see what it's all about. So I think it's really, it's I'd say probably most of it's probably just simply word of mouth, or we just happen upon it. We just happen to be connected with somebody else who's connected with it.
So I actually have another question. Oh, you can go ahead, Quida.
Nope, go ahead.
So I actually had another question. It's unrelated to the topic of how did you find indie. I was actually curious. I think either you, Tim, or Cassie said that one of you were a teacher, and I was just curious because I mentor and tutor a lot of kids, and I cannot stress enough the importance of writing. Whenever I see them, I always tell them that, are you writing? Do you have a journal? Not because I want them to necessarily be an author, but in my mind, writing it's the most important thing that you can have in your career. When you're doing math and rocket science, that's only useful if you're going to be working for NASA, right? But writing is useful for your resume and everything else. I was just curious. I'm not sure which one of you said that you were a teacher, but do you stress the importance of writing?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, so I also my summer work. So in addition to teaching just regular through the school year, I work with Bridges Baltimore, which is now actually an LLC, which works with Baltimore City students as well, from grades 4 up to rising 9th graders as they get into high school, and then partners with them all the way through to college, and they help them with things like scholarships for schools. And anyway, I'm actually doing a 2.5-week program with them now, where in the morning I'm teaching English, in the afternoon I'm teaching them film, so they're seeing me all day now. And yeah, we're doing we read last week. We read Lessons Before Dying, by Ernest Gaines. And then alongside of that, we did some journaling, we did some writing, and now this week we're focused on creative writing and producing some original work, whether it be, and a lot of it's just really looking at, and I teach them how to, and I do similar things in the regular school year. And what I try to do is I try to give them a focus so that it's not just sit down and write, but prompted writing helps, giving them tools to kind of determine what to write, whether it be writing a list. Write a list of 5 stories, 5 story titles you'd like to write, maybe, or maybe that you would never write, or make a list of 5 things that whatever it is, whatever you're writing about, write about it. Because I don't remember who said it, but it was something like, I don't really know what I believe until I write, or I don't really know what I believe until I've written it out, or something like that. And it is, for me anyway, there's a lot of things I discover about what I really truly know if I'm writing it down. And I think, to go back to your point, Dayson, it's I think one of the ultimate expressions, art aside, is being able to fluently communicate through writing complex ideas, and to inspire people through writing, because it is such a nuanced form of communication, and relatively new too. If you think about the human history and when and how long humanity has been around before we actually started writing stuff down. Kind of an interesting idea there.
It's deep, man. Brandy always reminds me, words have meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
And our language is also very fluid. The context is always changing. You know, even from when I was a kid, certain things we say are like highly inappropriate now, or things that, or vice versa, things that used to be highly inappropriate I hear now, and I'm like, sorry, what? You know?
Right. Yeah.
I wanted to visit Cassie real quick again. Like, what? All right. So, are you a full-time writer? Do you write? What else do you have going on? Are you a mom, pet owner? What's going on with you, Cassie? Like, what's your inspiration? Where do you draw on?
I'm actually a very busy. I run a horse boarding facility, so I've got 32 horses to take care of daily, and then and I'm a volunteer EMT. So I've been volunteering for 14 years now, running on the squad. So people always ask me why I don't write those stories, and those are very personal for me. That's very, very difficult for me to go back into some of those memories. So I like the happy fiction. I like the happy endings. I like it turns out well in the end, because I've seen it not turn out well far too many times. And then I have a very large family. A lot of the foster kids that I mentioned, my parents did end up keeping. So I have 13 siblings. So there are 14 of us that my parents took in. And so that keeps me very busy, very, very busy. We all live within 40 miles of each other. So, you know, we're always over visiting at mom's or running to a movie together. Yeah. So between all of those things, I got to pack the writing in, midnight, 1 a.m., but it's worth it to me. I love it. So, and I actually just started another job. I'm building a business with some people that I met. We're building interactive audiobooks. So the script writing process that I told you about earlier that I've been learning is because the voice actors like it in script form. So it will play on your phone as an audiobook, and then a choice will pop up, and then you can make your choices just like the old Choose Your Own Adventures books.
Okay, right, like the old Fork and Choose Your Own Adventures. So the new school thing, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but research it. It's PlayStation puts out video games that are basically that. They're called Telltale series.
Okay. No, I have not heard of it.
Yeah. So this is if this is what you're doing, research Telltale series, because they'll take popular genres, popular video games, and you'll get like you'll get a video or you get a movie scene that leads up to you making a choice. Do you do this or that? And then the game continues and has different outcomes and endings, just like the books. So as soon as you said interactive stories, I knew exactly what you meant, because the kids, I can't stand them, because it's like, if you're going to play video games, play video games. If you're going to do a story, read a story, right?
Yeah.
But the kids enjoy them. So I wish you luck with that. I think you'll enjoy it and have fun, and people will enjoy it. But look at Telltale series. That's the one I know that all our kids play. So
Nice.
Very cool.
I'll do that.
Yeah, that is cool.
So I see we have a fan who posted Brenda Bailey. So I wanted to shout out to her and say hi.
Oh,
she's a writer as well. She's not published, but she definitely loves writing. So yeah, thanks for popping in.
Yes.
Miss Brenda, well, do you want to get published? I know a guy. Talk to this guy, Tim.
A few guys, a few people here. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Awesome.
That is awesome. And Tim, I think that it was great that you suggested the writing prompt. I think some people take for granted that they do write. And so then they're like, hey, have this journal, write down your ideas, write down your thoughts. And people are like, I don't know where to start. So just those list of 5 things. I mean, and sometimes even adults don't know their passion. You know what I mean? So just a list of 5 things that I think that that's beautiful. So that's really helpful.
There's also a few strategies that I'm using. Like there's this, it's like a story machine. It's basically, there was this guy who was big time in writing pulp fiction, and he wrote hundreds of short pulps a year, hundreds of them, and he did it because he was just like, all right, well, I need a setting, and he had a list of like 85 possible settings. I need a act of a villain, and I need a minor character who's going to create problems for the hero of the story. I need a motivation for the act of the villain, and so it was like a list of things that he just random number generator, and those became his stories. And I actually tried them, like, this is actually kind of cool. Like, I'm working on writing a story where there's a river. The act of the villain is state-sponsored terrorism. The motivation is money. The minor character who creates problems for the hero of the story is a slacker. It's just like this random collection of stuff where I'm like, I would never have thought about this stuff on my own, but now I'm like, ooh. So I created this little reporter type investigative reporter type character. I'm like, let's see if I can fit all these elements in. And so it's a neat way to challenge yourself, because it's like sitting down and like, what do I write about? Another cool thing is, like, I did this with my summer camp kids today. Rory's cubes, and it's just 9 cubes where you just roll the dice and you begin the story with Once Upon a Time. And it's like, when they first did it, they rolled the dice and this image pops up. It was like a building. And it's like, he's like, once upon a time, there's this tall building. I'm like, we're really telling a story. Let me demonstrate. So I did it. I was like, once upon a time, there was this evil CEO who lived at the very top of a penthouse apartment. And then when I stopped, it was the next person's turn, and they rolled the dice, and the next thing might have been like a light bulb or a bridge, or I'm like, you don't have to necessarily take those images literally for this, just whatever prompts, however it fits it in there.
Right.
But that's also fun, because now they're they're thinking creatively, telling stories, but they're not necessarily writing them down. It's just like a fun communal thing that we're doing as a game.
You have to take your cubes to the writers retreat.
Well, for sure. Yeah, I'll take a bunch of them. That'll be a wrap.
Bro, when I'm telling you, you can even stream that live on IG or Twitter for people that can't make it. They would love it, bro. They would just love the energy and the creativeness. I'm telling you, that I would watch. I would want to hear the stories you guys come up with for sure.
Yeah, for sure. That would be tons of fun. I haven't committed to going to the retreat yet. I'm not sure if I'll make it this time, but it definitely sounds like something I'd want to do. See, so Cassie, you got to stream it so Tim can check in with you guys. Yeah. Go ahead, Quida.
Right. I was about to say the same thing. Like, before we wrap up, though, I wanted to know, did you guys want to share like any last words of wisdom for any new authors who might be out there that have not started, they really want to get started, but just haven't taken the steps? Any words of encouragement or words of wisdom you all want to share?
Just don't get discouraged. It's a long haul.
Yeah.
It's a very long haul.
And if you're I'm sorry. Keep going.
I was just gonna say, just keep at it and you'll make it. I don't have any doubt about that. You just keep going until you're there.
Say if you're just starting out, read and write every day would be key. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be long drawn out. It doesn't even have to. What you write every day doesn't even have to be something that you've published. Just write every day. And I'm also kind of preaching myself right here, because I definitely don't write every day, but I'm trying to get into that habit of just writing something every day.
I made a New Year's resolution this year that I would get 200,000 words written this year, and it's been difficult. It's been difficult for sure, but I am at 120, so I'm
wow.
Doing
I was going to say, my publisher is he likes, like, we talk a lot, like me and Tim have really good conversations when we take time to sit down and talk. my publisher Donnie, we also have some good talks, and he's like, man, you got to write some of these stories down, because being a chaplain in Baltimore, you get some good stories, and truth is stranger than fiction. And he's always telling me, you got to write these down, you know. So he challenged me one day. He said for 5 days, in the next 5 days in a row, just write for 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes, sit down and write. Doesn't matter. There is no objective or goal, just to write for 5 minutes. And I did it for 5 days, and then I stopped, because I was like, I did it, I'm done, right? But during those 5 days, I just like was more thoughtful throughout the entire day, because my mind I started off the day like, you know, exercising the muscle, man. And then, you know, I looked forward and anticipated to writing the next day, what am I going to write about? And so, you know, I started logging and paying attention to things going around me during that day. And it was just a really good process, even if you're not a writer, like you guys were talking about, just journaling and documenting things. And I'll tell you, some of the most valuable times I spend with people is when you go through an old photo album, or someone pulls out an old journal from like 20 years ago, and they're sharing it, like, man, you remember this, you remember that? And it's just like, wow, I'm so glad you wrote that down. I forgot all about that, you know? So even if you're not, you know, want to be published or anything, yeah, writing has value. You guys are constantly honing your craft and exploring and learning more. I appreciate your time tonight. I appreciate you guys sharing your experiences, and I look forward to maybe having you guys on some more, and just, you know, as the show goes on and as you guys evolve, and as you got more books coming out, definitely get on and let's get the word out there. And if you ever visit Baltimore, let us know. You know, you got brothers and sisters you ain't know you had.
I love it.
Yeah, don't believe everything you hear in the media. Baltimore is all love, man, and we got a really good community and really good family. But I appreciate you guys tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great show, guys. Thank you.
Yep. Have a good night, guys.
Great
All right,
questions.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good one.
You too.